How are you gonna be a big rapper? No Tino shade, big rapper. Talk about your Trini, but haven't made a soca song. But Ariana Grande did. No Tino shade.
Ashanti made one. Ariana Grande did with Major Lazer.
Yeah,
she's trying to be Jamaican too much.
Some Trinidadians have a weird complex when it comes to Nicki Minaj. It's either she's not doing enough or she's doing too much, or, she's Trini, but she wants to be Jamaican. The real ones know that Nicki Minaj was born in Trinidad, born and raised in Trinidad until the age of 5, which is when she immigrated to Jamaica, Queens in New York City. If you know anything about what it's like to be from New York City or raised in New York City, you know that it's one of the most diverse places on the planet. And so you can be of one nationality, but strongly identify with another nationality or the most dominant ethnicity in your area. So for me, my family is Panamanian from Central America, Hispanic, but I also heavily identify with Jamaican culture, food, and the music because of my family's relationships with Jamaican people and their culture. I should probably add that I was also raised in Jamaica, Queens as well. So it's very common. Jamaican heritage and culture is very dominant in this part of the city, as well as other boroughs like the Bronx and Brooklyn. We also know that Nicki dated Safari, who was also Jamaican, but not even that he was a big influence on her. We know that he was culturally, but before him, she was probably already around that culture and environment. And if you really know Nicki's music and discography, you know that she's been including Jamaican heritage and sounds into her music since way back. One of her most popular songs is Hold Ya featuring Egyptian. She did a remix to his hit song at the time that's not even on streaming services but has millions of views on YouTube. She even performed her remix with Egyptian. Hold Ya is one of Nicki's most fan favorite verses in her discography. So for the longest, and because of the complexity of Nicki's identity, we know that she's Trinidadian, but she heavily identifies with and celebrates Jamaican culture, but she's also very loyal to her Trinidadian roots. And being that she'll put her love for Jamaican culture on display in doing songs, in music videos, or in just how she speaks and using patois. It's not perfect, but it's Nicki Minaj patois. We all enjoy it. And Trinidadian people have questioned, does Nicki really love us? What has Nicki done for our country and our culture? And is she a good representation for Trinidad on the mainstream A-list level that she is? So as long as you're not under a rock, you saw Nicki last week at Carnival in Trinidad. Just under 2 weeks ago, Nicki Minaj released the Shake the Place remix, which is a big song in Trinidad right now for Carnival season, and it's by Machel Montano and Destra Garcia. It was a surprise and exclusive release to YouTube. It's on no other streaming platform. Last year in 2022, there was a TikTok of 3 Trinidadian podcasters that went viral, accusing Nicki of not making soca music and only pandering to Jamaican culture. This ended up going viral on TikTok and Twitter. So let's get into it.
How are you gonna be a big rapper? No Tino shade, big rapper. Talk about your Trini, but haven't made a soca song. But Ariana Grande did. No Tino shade.
Ashanti made one. Ariana Grande did with Major Lazer.
Yeah,
she's trying to be Jamaican too much. That's why.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
She was on stage,
Of course, Dottie winding it up
a little. Oh, what do you ask? I'm just like, sis.
I just want the other. I just want the other countries to hold them to the fire. They need to hold them to the fire because I don't think that Trinidadians get on her enough about it. They don't like it, but they don't voice it enough.
Alleging that Nicki Minaj feels like she has the right to serve the Caribbean demographic because she brought a Jamaican artist on stage is absurd. Just like anywhere in the world, as in America, there's a lot of people who love Nicki Minaj, and then there's people who don't love Nicki Minaj. So in Trinidad, yes, it would be fair if there are people who don't like Nicki Minaj for whatever reason. Now, we would want for Trinidadians to love Nicki, of course, because that is her homeland and the mother country, but you can't control people. The feature that we talked about earlier, Hold Ya featuring Egyptian, comes from a long list of features that Nicki has done for Caribbean artists with Caribbean sounding music. Don't forget about Dutty Love, Sean Kingston. Now, most of them do come from, most artists do come from Jamaica, and they're coming from that dance hall sound. However, it's still an ode to the Caribbean culture in general. And that was honestly one of the things that made me fall in love with Nicki. Back in, I think it was 2010, 2011 was when that feature with Sean Kingston had came out. And yes, I was already a fan of Nicki. I was paying attention, but that song right there had me in a chokehold for years. That verse, the way that she switched up her flows and went from English to patois in the verse. And I was really impressed by an artist who could intertwine both cultures, both languages, and into a verse, because it made me feel seen as someone who is born in America, don't really have any blood ties to Jamaica, but at the same time, I heavily identify with Jamaican culture because that was just my upbringing and, my background and cultural surroundings in New York City. So identity is not cut and dry. Now, anyway, let's move on to something else, because I will include screenshots and I will include a playlist link to all of Nicki's Caribbean music and international features so you guys can hear for yourself. So now let's fast forward to 2022 in the early part of February, where it's Carnival season in Trinidad, and Nicki comes out of nowhere and drops a remix to shake up the place with Machel Montano and Destra. And then 3 days later, she pops up in Trinidad and spends a week there for Carnival, and then does a video to promote her new song, Red Ruby the Sleaze. One thing about Nicki is that timing is everything, and now she really has a platform to be able to do whatever she wants. But here's the real tea that I really need to explain to y'all, because people don't be understanding. When you see Nicki pop up in Trinidad, or when you see Nicki work with an unknown artist that is not known to the masses, whether it is another female rapper or a Caribbean artist, do you think that they can afford Nicki's fee to pay for that feature? Nicki has said, she always tells us, yo, my price is $1 million at least for a feature. We know that the Caribbean music industry is not as developed as the American one. So her doing this feature for Destra and Machel Montano is actually a very big deal for soca music. Most Caribbean people know that soca is its own genre. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people still mix up dance hall and reggae. However, although soca is its own genre, it is not recognized technically in the music industry as its own genre. That calls for a lot of problems. However, they are moving forward and doing better with it. But as a whole, nobody knows what soca is or what a soca artist is. And so Nicki popping up in Trinidad, do you think that they paid her at least $1 million to come? Do you think that the promoters in Trinidad can afford to pay Nicki to come? Did you see Nicki promote any one event as if she was going to host or get paid to be there? She didn't. So when you saw Nicki do all of that, know that it came from her pocket. When the week was over and Nicki posted all of her footage from Trinidad, she included a snippet of one of the biggest Trinidadian news outlets expressing how important it was for Nicki to be in Trinidad and how it really raised the profile of Carnival for tourist attractions so that they can make more money moving forward. Now, us Caribbean people, we know what goes down in the Caribbean every year, but most of the world doesn't, especially when it comes to Trinidad, because Jamaica is still the most popular country in the Caribbean. Am I lying or what? So when you see Nicki doing all of this, when you see her working with these smaller unknown artists, Machel Montano, Patrice, Roberts, although they're really big artists in Trinidad, they're not on a global scale. And they simply cannot afford to pay Nicki her fee, right? So now you see her doing music with these artists. You see her traveling, right? You see her team with her. Nicki is paying for everything. She's actually losing money being in Trinidad and working with these people. So that is her contribution to Trinidad, right? Her raising the profile. She's an A-list artist. She has millions of fans around the world who are watching her every move. And now so many more people are a little bit more educated on what's taking place in Trinidad. And we shall see that the numbers in tourism and participation in Carnival will go up. See what y'all did there? Y'all just made me go off. So to those podcasters that made this TikTok video about what Nicki does and doesn't do for the country, like where they at now? What y'all got to say now? To all of the Trinidadian naysayers who don't like Nicki for whatever reason, not sure what it could be. And then we see that Nicki posts up pictures with her family, right? So it wasn't just a work obligation, right? That she didn't get paid for. She was with her family. I saw some other footage where she had a lot of food in the house that she rented. So, they definitely had a get together. And at the end of the trip, the night before she left, she went in the streets of Trinidad and filmed a snippet to her new song, Red Ruby the Sleaze, that's out now. So make sure you guys are streaming and buying that because it's important to her to have those women behind her dancing. It was important to her to include her culture, her people in her music. And if you're not paying attention, right, Nicki is gearing up to drop her 5th album, and something tells me about this era that it's just going to be back to her roots and Nicki having fun and doing exactly what she wants to do. Nicki no longer has an obligation to play the music industry game, play the hip hop game. She can do that. She will do that. But now Nicki is at a place where she has a platform to put on for whatever she wants to do. So if she wants to, be around Caribbean culture, in one of the interviews that I showed in my previous videos, Nicki talked about working with a dance hall artist for the 5th album. And so if she stays true to that plan, there will be at least one dance hall song on Nicki's 5th album. So please, hold your horses. Don't be mad. Everybody relax. We all love Nicki, and I don't understand, what's Nicki must be Trinidadian, Nicki can't be Jamaican, Nicki this, Nicki that, Nicki this, Nicki that, Nicki mad them. Skeng words. Shout out to Skeng. But yeah, y'all need to chillax. Relax, okay? Make sure y'all go stream that Red Ruby to Sleaze. Thanks for coming through. Subscribe for my next video. Ciao.